Hello friends, my name is Jess and welcome back to my channel, Books Past Bedtime. In today's video, we're going to be talking about all the books that I've rated 5 stars so far in 2024. Now, as of this point, this halfway point in the year, I've read a total of 67 books so far, I believe. And of those 67 books, I have only given about 10 5 stars. So if you want to know what books of all the books I've read this year I think are worth you reading, stay tuned. I do have 2 disclaimers. I'm not counting rereads in this list, and I'm not counting a nonfiction in this list, just because I feel like those are 2 separate categories. These are books that are new to me that I found in 2024 that I rated 5 stars. Now, before we get into the actual list, I do want to give 2 honorable mentions. I gave both of these books 4.5 stars, and I do think that they are definitely worth reading, even though they weren't a full 5 star for me. They could be for you. First of which is Satisfaction Guaranteed by Carolina Stutz Waters. This is a contemporary sapphic romance following our main character, who's very buttoned up and serious. So of course she inherits a sex toy shop from her eccentric aunt. And she goes to the sex toy shop trying to figure out like what she's gonna do with it, if she's gonna sell it, if it's making a profit, like what's going on, where she meets the love interest, who is the like person who works in the shop, runs it day to day, and had a really deep and sincere relationship with our main character's aunt as well, loved her like an aunt or a mother as well, and the 2 kind of teach each other about life and fall in love along the way. It's a bit of a grumpy sunshine thing going on, but it also has a lot of emotional depth as we are dealing with grief and death, and so yeah, it's like a lot of fun. It turned out to be really funny, but also just really lovely, and like I said, had some emotional depth to it. I really enjoyed it. This was a really surprising book for me. I didn't think I was gonna love it as much as I did, so I definitely think that this one should be on your radar. It was really good and very underrated. Another one that I want to shout out is Mate Hub Legend by Marie Renaud. This is a KU smutty MLM romance between 2 porn stars, basically. One is a like an alpha shifter and the other is a human. They don't think that they will be compatible. They think their little week-long contract will just be a one-off. It's not. They are like fated mates, fall in love, but it's also really hot. And I gave this one 4.5 stars. Basically, it's just got knocked off a half star because it's not the next great American novel, but it was a lot of fun. It was really hot, and it actually was really well written too. I really liked it a lot, so I definitely would recommend checking this one out if you're into that kind of thing. Alright, and now let's hop into all of the 5-star books that I've had in 2024. I did list these in chronological order, so they are not ranked. You'll have to wait until the end of the year for my final decision on like what my favorite books of the year so far, but I did want to let you know which ones I've been loving so far. So the very first 5-star book of the year was the very first book that I read this year. I did that on purpose. I really wanted to read a 5-star book first to start 2024 off on the right foot. It didn't really work. That's not the point of this video. The point is that I gave A Power Unbound by Fran Marks 5 stars. This is the 3rd book in her Marvelous Light series, which is a historical fantasy romance queer series. The first book is MLM, the second book is WLW, and this 3rd book is another MLM installment. And I loved it. It was really good. It has like grumpy sunshine tropes, kind of enemies to lovers trope, a bit of like forced proximity, like an unwilling alliance, and basically the main like overarching plot of the books is that our main characters are trying to save the world from these corrupt magicians who want to take all of the magic in the world for themselves, hoard it, and turn basically everyone else non-magical. And they're trying to prevent this from happening because they believe the magic should be shared. A lovely allegory for what's not happening in the world right now. This was just fabulous. I loved it. It was so hot. It was so sexy. The chemistry between the characters was immaculate. This one was probably my favorite in the series just because I loved how the like overarching plot ended as well, and getting all of those like things tied into neat bows was very satisfying. I loved seeing again all of the characters from the first books in this 3rd book and seeing them like grow into themselves, and the plot of this one was just very exciting. It kept me on the edge of my seat, and I just was obsessively reading it to find out what happened to these characters because I loved it so much. So I definitely would recommend this one. The next book I gave 5 stars was of course Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. This book came out in December, but I think I read it in January. Either way, this is the 5th installment in the Heartstopper series, which is a coming of age graphic novel novel slash comic series by Alice Oseman, which follows our main characters Nick and Charlie and their like meet cute and romance throughout high school. They go through ups and downs together in their relationship, with their friends, with their family, dealing with different like social issues and things, and I think Alice just handles everything like lovely, beautifully, isn't afraid to deal with those like harder emotions, but this is a story also about queer joy at the forefront for the most part, so I do think she does an excellent job like showing that and achieving that, and I just love this series so much along with everyone else in the world. This could get nothing other than a 5-star, honestly. It was amazing. A little more embarrassing to admit, the next book I gave 5 stars was Dear Daddy Please Spank Me by Char Croft. I don't know why I'm so embarrassed. I know I've talked about this book on my channel and other places, but I think I'm just so embarrassed because it's made it onto this list with all these 5-star amazing books. But it's also an amazing 5-star book. Like, I don't know what about it. It just speaks to me. So this is Daddy King romance book. It does not have an age gap in it. The two characters are the same age. They went to high school together, but one was a freshman, one was a senior, so they didn't really know one another, but they kind of meet through a dating app kind of on a whim, figure out that they're just what each other needs, that they're just perfect for each other, and I don't know, like it's just one of the hottest books I've ever read, but it's also got some emotional depth, deals with some mental health topics, and the chemistry between the two characters is just out of this world. Yeah, I don't know. This book is so fucking amazing that I read it twice so far this year. So it definitely is one of my favorites of the year. I feel some type of way about it, okay? It's great. Love it. The next book I gave 5 stars was Prince of Agony by Tavia Lark. Similar to A Power Unbound, this is actually the last in the series. It wraps up Tavia Lark's Perilous Courts series. This was a 6-book series. The first 3 books followed 3 princes of one kingdom, and the second 3 books followed 3 princes of another kingdom and all of their individual romances. But yeah, I really loved the 6th book. I thought it was a great final installment. I really loved the romance. It follows our final prince, Prince Kazuya, and he is basically a brat throughout the rest of the series. Like, you see his actions and he just like terrorizes everyone in the castle. But in this book we learn that there's a reason for it, that really Kazuya is just trying to stay afloat, and we get his little forbidden romance actually between him and a prisoner in the castle in the kingdom, and they kind of help one another escape, fall in love throughout the course of the book, and it's just very sweet. Kazuya needed somebody to protect him because he's just a little angel cinnamon roll. I loved him so much, and I really loved this final installment. This is such a fantastic romantasy series on KU. All of the books are male, so yeah, I loved it. It was fantastic. 5 stars, obviously. The next 2 books that I want to talk about are the second and third book in the Green Creek series by TJ Klune. The first book is called Raven Song, the third book Heart Song. Raven Song is Gordo's story and his romance with Mark, and Heart Song is Robbie and Kelly's story. Now, I loved both of these. Both of these got 5 stars. Favorites of the year. Incredible. TJ Klune's Green Creek series is just quickly becoming like one of my favorite things in the world, to be honest with you. If you didn't know, this is a romantasy series by TJ Klune. It involves werewolves. It's set in present day, but it is fantasy, and it follows the Bennett werewolf pack, who are kind of like royalty of American werewolves because they are kind of like the kings and princes of this world. There are people in the world that want to knock them down a peg and want to take power for themselves, and so the Bennett pack is having to fight back against that and fight for the betterment of werewolf kind, obviously. But each of the 4 books in the series is a different romance, a different character. The second book, Raven Song, followed Gordo and Mark, like I said. This one is Robbie and Kelly. The timeline of these is interesting because you always like think you know what's going on, but then you don't. They're so very exciting. The plot is amazing. It's kind of got an overarching plot throughout the whole series, but each book kind of stands in itself as its own romance too, which I love. I loved Gordo and Mark's romance. Gordo is just one of my favorite characters of the year. I just love him so much. He's my favorite type of character where he has such a hardened exterior because the world is just beating the shit out of him, but really inside he's like a gooey little cinnamon roll, and he just cares about everyone around him so much but struggles to like show it. I don't know. I love a character like that. I just think they're so fascinating and I just want to hug them. This book I love because Kelly is asexual, so we have some asexual representation, which I always love seeing in romance. And their romance is just so sweet. This book involves the amnesia trope, which I haven't really read a ton before, but I really liked how it was handled in this book. I thought it added an extra layer of kind of getting to see the characters like fall in love twice, which is really sweet. And I don't know, I loved this one as well. These books are so incredible. This is definitely a 5-star series so far, and I can't wait to read the 4th book, and hopefully it will make it into my favorites of the year list. list. And then of course we have to talk about A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall, one of my favorites of the year for sure. This is a queer Regency romance following a trans main character and her relationship with her childhood best friend. They kind of became estranged, well, mostly because her best friend thought she died on the battlefield, but then they come back into one another's lives and form a really beautiful, really strong new friendship and then a relationship from there. The scene where he kind of recognizes her from her previous life, I don't know, like, I loved how it was handled and I loved how hard he groveled afterwards. Like, this man realizes his mistake immediately and sets out to fucking fix it, and I loved that. It was incredible the way he just was not going to give up after he decided that he was in love with her and she was the one he wanted for the rest of his life. He was not going to give up. He was not going to let some silly society reasons stand in the way for them not to be together, and he fought for her so hard and he groveled for her so hard, and I was obsessed with this man. I loved him, and I loved him for Viola, our main character. I loved Viola too. She was just so very like level-headed and very realistic, which is kind of how I see myself. Like, I don't see myself as like an optimist or a pessimist. I like see myself as a realist, and I'm gonna do my best to like live my life in a way that's like realistic, will get me hurt the least amount possible. So I don't know, I felt like I really related a lot to Viola, and I just loved seeing how their friendship reblossomed and their romance reblossomed from there. It was all very like natural, very romantic, very beautiful, and very sweet. The book is just so well written because not only is like seamlessly paced, the characters are incredible, the dialogue is wonderful. There's also moments of like brevity and humor, which is so fun. I feel like Alexis Hall does great at that, bringing humor into these like very serious, emotional books, and it just makes them so much more enjoyable to read, and I loved it. I loved every aspect of this. There's not a single thing I would change. It was beautiful, it was wonderful, it was lovely. Obsessed. I am also now obsessed with The Prospects by KT Hoffman. This is a contemporary sports romance with another trans main character. His name is Gene, and he is the first openly trans character in professional baseball, and he is just a ray of sunshine. He's so lovely, but then his world kind of gets turned upside down when this guy that he used to play baseball with in college gets drafted onto their team and takes Gene's position as shortstop. Now Gene is on second base, and him and Victor have to work together even though he doesn't really want to work with him because he's an asshole. And so there's a bit of a rivals to lovers situation going on, also grumpy sunshine, because Gene is just like endlessly optimistic no matter what happens to him, no matter what life throws at him. And then as they start working together, they do start to form more of a close friendship and start to kind of forgive one another and get back in one another's good graces and begin to fall for one another. I just loved this book. I love a sports romance. I don't know why. I just like the stakes of it, and I just think it's a fun thing for the plot to revolve around. I do like the forced proximity aspect of it because they do end up sharing hotel rooms and things. And yeah, this was just an incredible debut book because I felt like it was so well written, so well paced. The characters were fully fleshed out. Their relationship with one another felt natural and just very sweet and very loving and just, I don't know, very realistic. I was rooting for both characters pretty much the whole time. All the characters in this book honestly are fantastic, and it just made me like get kind of existential and like wish I lived in a world where there were openly trans players in professional sports and it could be happy like this. Like, this is a queer joy story. Like, this is about queer joy. It's lovely. It's wonderful and just so happy and heartwarming and wonderful to read. The perfect thing, I don't know, for anyone that wants to read about queer joy. It was lovely. One of my favorites of the year for sure. Well deserving of its 5-star placement. And then the most recent book that I've rated 5 stars is Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrane. I don't know how I couldn't give an Alison Cochrane book 5 stars. I've given everything I've read by her 5 stars. She just blows me out of the water every single time. If you didn't know, this is a sapphic road trip story involving our main characters, Logan and Rosemary, who were childhood best friends, but then kissed, didn't explore the tension between them, didn't communicate, and had kind of a friendship blow up over it. It's been like 20 years and they haven't spoken to one another, although they're both back in their hometown working at their old high school as teachers. And this was kind of inspired by their mutual love of their English teacher in high school, and they are still in his life, although he is now dying of cancer. He recruits the two of them to take him on a cross-country road trip as kind of like a last dying wish. And despite the fact that they hate each other, can't stand each other, can't imagine how they're going to be together in a car across the country, they agree because they both love their English teacher so much and want to honor his dying wish. And then throughout the course of the story, throughout this road trip, they are kind of forced to confront their feelings for each other, work through things, and they reform like a kind of truce and then a friendship and then a little something more. They realize that they can't let each other get out of their lives, that it was really stupid of them to let go and carry all this resentment because really they belong together. This was just really cute. It was really beautiful. It was really funny. No one writes mental health like Alison Cochran. I swear to God, like, I don't know what it is. She just takes the thoughts right on my head and puts them on paper. They're just it's so good. It's so amazing. So I really appreciate that representation. We also have Ace Rep and Rosemary, which I love. Both of these characters spoke to me so much. Like, I couldn't tell you which one I related to more because I related to different aspects of both characters, which I loved too. They just really spoke to me, and I really loved how their romance built. Again, felt very natural. There's a lot of themes in these books that I give 5 stars. I feel like I loved this so much, and it has a lot of emotional depth too because we're dealing with grief and loss of a parental figure, which definitely is very hard. Don't read this in public like I did and cry on the plane and scare the people around you, but it really was so good, so emotionally touching. I cried through like the last 100 pages of this. I'm not even kidding, but it was just so meaningful and so beautiful and so lovely and so wonderful. I couldn't give it anything but 5 stars. This book is fire. It's incredible. All right, those are all the books that I've given 5 stars. I feel like this video is a little shorter than I thought it was going to be. I haven't had as many 5 stars as I would like. Obviously, I would love every book to be 5 stars, but I feel like if every book was 5 stars, then the ones that were 5 stars wouldn't mean as much, you know? So, you know, I don't know. I'm okay with not having every book be a 5 star because I do feel like it makes those 5 stars all that more special. So yeah, those are the books that I've read this year that you definitely can't skip out on. If you're interested in purchasing any of these, I did leave Amazon links in the description. These are affiliate links you can purchase through me to help me earn a tiny commission to support this channel. Of course, if you don't want to, no pressure. They're just there for your convenience. Other things linked in the description are my social media if you want to follow me outside of YouTube, although I am most active on YouTube, so if you want to keep up with me, I would recommend subscribing. You can also like this video, it helps me out. Hit the notification bell to know when I am going to post anything new. Also, please leave me a comment down below. Let me know what your 5 stars of the year so far this year are. I would love to know. Always looking for new recommendations. There's no point in calling my never-ending TBR now. I want to know about all the good books out there. So I think that's everything that I have to say. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.